Vic, come on, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. I need to seat this within reality and demonstrate just how live this is. In Vicky's area, they're at the moment upgrading network connectivity, which means occasionally she may suddenly or glitch out. There we go. If it does, just ride with it. There's plenty of good stuff to come. As per usual, we are talking about a knotty subject to do with responding to tenders. And this is no different. Now, when I was young and I worked very hard to find a girlfriend, I thought I did, and I made my proposal to her. I said, would you go out with me? And she said, no. Of course, I was a bit diminished, a little bit upset. The same can be said by a lot of people who spend a lot of time putting together a tender, only for it to be cast out the window without so much as a by your leave. So our question today, Vicky, is what happens after you get that Dear John rejection letter?
Well, after you get your Dear John rejection letter and you tell your boss and you get given your P45, the company should really take this opportunity to take stock. All right. So this is a live example for us. So we've been working with the client for about the last 3 months now, and we got a rejection notice and 39 points. That's what we got. So 39 points. That's blooming ridiculous. And then you actually look
Hang on, 39 points. Were they 39 separate areas of rejection?
No. 39 points overall out of 100. The winning tender scored just over 60.
So that's quite a sizable difference.
Well, 39 to 60 is, it's not masses. But when you look at where the client lost marks, it was on experience.
Right.
Yeah. And it was about referenceability of case studies. The thing that I took particular interest in is our client came in under budget.
A long way under budget or a little bit?
Well, we're going to come on to this. So the budget for this particular tender was 150 to 250 grand.
Okay.
Our client came in at 140 plus VAT.
Right.
And they had a maximum score of 20 points for the pricing, and they scored 5.
Right.
Which means that one of the other responders had gone in there intentionally low to pick up all of the points. Now, the reason people do that is for 2 things. One, they know something that the rest of the market doesn't. And this can happen. So when you're working with somebody, I really want to work with MP Hats. Kind of cool guy. I love his hats. Really, really cool. Love the way that he does his little live streams. We could be working together and there could be some points in there that Gareth knows about, and that could pick up points during the qualitative response.
Right.
You've also then got the whole, well, I know Gareth is going to come in about 50 grand, but I know that the budget is 100 grand. So I'll put the tender out on a budget of say 100 to 150 grand. I know that Gareth's going to come in there, which means should anyone pip him to the post on the qualitative scores, at least he's able to pick the points back in pricing. And then there's the other side of it, which is where they literally just kind of saw the responses and went, you know what, we just like that one. And I've seen it. I've seen it from when I worked in corporate, when I was responding to bids as a sales director. You get questions where it was, we only want this particular piece of equipment that's named, and there's only one person who does it. So they're telling everybody from the get-go they're only interested in one person, but they need to run a procurement process in order to be fair and equal.
Right.
So you get a little bit of this. And half of tenders is understanding the ones that you can win,
right,
and the ones that haven't been influenced. So what happens once you've got your Dear John? Well, the process is kind of straightforward. The winning supplier gets told that they've won, and they then get the 2-week period where no communication with them happens in order for the relevant contracts to be drawn up. During that 2-week time period, the suppliers who haven't been successful have the opportunity to ask questions and gather feedback. You have 2 weeks to do this. Now,
Okay.
I've seen a trend where you have a stock letter that goes out. So it'll be the Gareth from Many Purple Hats. We're really sorry to notify you that you have been unsuccessful in the tender for LinkedIn marketing services.
Right.
Our winning provider or the winning bidder had the following scores. Here are your scores. And they usually do it in like a nice, like an Excel cutout so you can see the comparison. And then it would say something along the lines of, the winning bidder had the following attributes that your tender did not. And they'll just list out things. But the list out questions or the list out statements that is taken almost verbatim from their scoring matrix.
Right.
So when the tender first is released, you get a scoring matrix with your tender. And it says to score 5 points, you need to say this. To score 4 points, it's that. 3 points, this. And all they've really done is taken the say you've got 10 questions, you'll have 10 excellent standards, and they've just pulled content from there. So they're not actually giving you feedback. It's kind of naughty. That's the very bare minimum that they do. Now, if you're going to...
It's not excessively helpful.
It's not. It's a bit like saying, did you like your dinner tonight? No, because there was no cheese in it. Well, is that...
it's a bit like taking a pee, if you ask me, really.
So here's what you do. So if you're one of those people that gets your rejection notice and goes, oh, no, I'm not going to do tenders again. Listen to this. If you take nothing away, this is the bit that you take away. Ask for a supplier debrief. So you're well within your rights to ask for a supplier debrief. The way that you do this is to say, oh, well, Vicky Poole Council were really disappointed that, you know, we were unable to proceed. We're quite surprised by the disparity in the numbers and the scoring. Would really welcome an opportunity to gain some individual feedback, 15, 20 minutes, absolute max, lie, so that we can gather some feedback from your procurement team. Can you please suggest availability? The worst thing that they can say is no. If they say yes, what you do is you get a whole load of people there. You ask for it to be recorded. If they say no to a presentation, have a feedback form that you send them and say, what could I have done better? Because here's the real crux of it. So whilst there is, and it's not publicly available, but if you've worked in the field and the area long enough, you know where to get the information. So what you have to include in order to get a 3, what you have to include to get a 5, a 7, a 10. So we can kind of estimate as writers, we can estimate what the scoring's set to be in a response, because we have evaluators in our team.
Right.
Now, if you're new to this and you're not really providing, you don't have a lot of experience within your team, or you're right and you haven't got the results that you've wanted, it could be that the council or whoever's done the evaluation has a different metric that they are scoring by. And that's really valuable to know. So for example, health and safety. Health and safety is a good one because it comes up in lots of different areas. You know, describe your health and safety process. That question comes up in quite a lot of tenders. It doesn't say confirm that you're ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, or that you're compliant with SIP, CHAS, construction line. It doesn't say that. So when you write a response to say, we have our own health and safety management policy, we are externally audited, you're providing lots of information, but the tick box for a 3 or a 4 could be that you are ISO accredited. Now, there is being ISO accredited, and there's following ISO guidelines.
Yeah, they're not quite the same thing, are they?
They're not quite the same thing, but as long as you're demonstrating compliance. So, for example, you know, in that question, and this is one that came up recently, the client has a full health and safety policy. They were externally audited, but they never said in none of their documentation have they ever said that they comply with any national guidelines? So we asked them, are you compliant with any industry guidelines? They went, no, we sub out a whole lot of work, or we get work through subs, like subbing into bigger companies. We've never been asked for it. So we wrote the response and we said, we think we're dropping marks here because we're not listing out that you're ISO compliant, you have construction lines, SIP, CHAS, and long story cut short, that was the bit that dropped them the marks. Now, you can say that you follow health and safety guidelines that are compliant with ISO. As long as you do, of course, you have to, because if you get asked to supply any documentation, you're going to have to submit all of your verification materials as well. You can say that you're working towards an ISO as long as it's true.
So you can hint that that's the direction you're going in without actually having to fully achieve that direction.
Well, and this is why it's really important to understand your feedback. So if you get a no, if it's no, you just simply weren't good enough. It's, well, what made my response so different to the other person who's won it, who I know doesn't have any of their own team in-house? They're subbing it out. So I was going to deliver it in-house. What makes them better than me? And when you find out those little nuggets, they have the position way, they've said that they've got a certification that wasn't asked for in the spec. Right. You can take an assessment of whether or not that's something that you want to do. Because some of these certifications are expensive. So if you were looking to go ISO 9001 and 14001, I mean, that's
it doesn't bear thinking about cost-wise, and also time-wise. They take an awful amount of time to achieve that. You can't get them overnight.
You can't. You can get them inside of 16 weeks, though.
Can you?
So if you know that it's really important. So brilliant example on this one. So I was supporting a cleaning company relatively local to me who was looking to go into some school contracts across Berkshire, Hampshire and Wiltshire. And all of the tenders, they hadn't mandated that you needed to be ISO compliant or CHAS or anything else. But we read between the lines and we asked the relevant questions. And instead of actually responding to tenders, they've gone out and they've looked at their ISO 9001, 14001, and I'm going to say 45001 compliance, because it would take their scores from their questions from being a 5 to an 8 by saying that you are compliant with the process, with the procedure that's recognized within your industry. Right,
okay.
Because we looked back at previous tenders. We had understood scoring from the way that the previous tenders had been done to really kind of pull out the relevant information. And it's also really important to note at this point that regardless of how many suppliers respond to a tender, there's only one winner. So if there's 10 people that respond, you got 9 rejections and one winning provider. Those 9 rejections have 9 opportunities to learn.
All right.
If we take it as or if you take it as we'll do better next time, you've got to do the work now and you get 2 weeks to ask those questions.
So what you're saying is, even if it's a rejection, it's a chance to really learn and take stock.
Absolutely. When I worked in corporate, I would hedge my bets on winning 4 in 5. But I would respond to, on average, 7 tenders with the expectation of winning 4. And I would respond to those 7, and I would deliberately price myself out of the market on a couple of them, primarily to get independent feedback. Because once you've got the winning bid, no one's really interested in giving you that feedback because you were the best. I mean, you scored the highest. Why do I need to give you feedback? Because I knew that I needed to keep on top of my game against my competition, who were, because they weren't like me, and to try and be better than me, to try and get points off me, figure out what I was doing. So similarly, I needed to understand their marketplace. So yes, responding to bids and tenders can be a costly exercise. Regardless of the result, you can learn from this. Hugely important.
What remains for me to say is thank you so much, Vicky, for once again shining a light on an area that most people would just throw up their hands in the air, pick up the P45 and dust themselves off and try and find the next job. What we're saying here is there's an awful lot of positive that can be taken out of that experience.
Absolutely.
If you can take the information and the feedback that is given often on these, that you can actually improve your bid next time round and possibly even win. Thank you so much, Vicky. I say to all of you, watch out. We do these regularly. Tends to be every Wednesday about this sort of time. Please watch out for them. I will be reissuing some of the older ones, I think, starting from the beginning of August. We've got them all lined up. Anger is busy retitling them all, and we start pushing them out again there. So watch out for that as well. So what we'll end up with is still our live on the Wednesday, but one of the older ones going out perhaps on the Monday. So you're going to get double doses of information about all tender response stuff. But in the meantime, look after yourselves. Try and keep your feet on the ground, but reach for the stars and look after that mental health. Bye-bye now.